Hello, welcome to the show. This is Emotional Badass, where Moxie meets mindful. I'm your host, Nikki Eisenhower, life coach and psychotherapist. And on today's episode, I'm discussing the essence of home. Hello, y'all. Happy holidays wherever you are in the world. I celebrate Christmas, so Merry Christmas. We're almost there. I've been wanting to talk to y'all about home for a long time. Home is quite the thing to define. It's so much more than the built structure of walls and windows and hearth. Home is more than a building. It's more than an address. It's more than a street. It's more than a town. It's more than a city. Home is a feeling. It's an idea. It's an essence. It's a warmth. It's a full-hearted, settled in, safe, snuggled up to bosom as a baby kind of feeling. Home is comfort. It's belonging. It is safety, security. It's the place where we are welcomed and wanted, understood, heard, and held. This is the essence of home that I believe every single human being desires, wants. For some, this feeling of home is familiar. Home in its essence is a happening. It's an experience, but it's not like the experience of going on a plane. It's not like your first day of school. It's not like a trip to the zoo. It's not a thing. It's not a one-day adventure. It's not an excursion. These are the things, all of the other things, take us out of home, away from home. And when we are away from home, we risk physically and emotionally, whether we recognize that or not. The feeling of home is a background experience. Home is where we rest and restore. It's where we plug in ourselves like we plug in our phones to recharge. It's our ground zero for this one precious life. Home happens not in a moment. It's not a trip. It happens as a backdrop to our lives. Home is more like an ambiance. It's a certain music playing in the background of our lives. It's like a soundtrack that sets the mood, the tone, the vibration for everything else that we do. This essence of home, it affects everything we say, do, think, believe. Some of us grew up in family systems and in dynamics or circumstances that had home soundtracks, the essence of home as kind of a smooth, easy, vibing jazz or a classical music. Maybe a gentle, rhythmic, groovy reggae. While others of us had constant soundtracks of screaming heavy death metal vibes. And sometimes, unfortunately, the soundtracks, the essence of home, they aren't even music. For some precious souls out there, what they know of home is that it's a torturous, persistent sound of nails on a chalkboard kind of vibe. Whatever your experience, I want you to know that all of us are adulting for our wise woman and wise man self, but also for our inner child. And whatever you experienced, whatever you're experiencing now or in recent history, I want you to know that the feeling of home, that ideal safety, security, exhaling into spaciousness, a feeling that embodies kicking off our shoes, taking off our bra kind of comfort. It is available to you now, and healing and growth work get you there, get you to that feeling of home, the good feeling of home, even if you were raised with that sound of nails on the chalkboard as the soundtrack to your childhood. Don't miss a moment, y'all. Hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I've thought a lot about home. What it is, what it isn't. what it means, why we pine for it if we go no contact with toxic family members, why we yearn for it at holiday time, the precious memories some of us have connected to this feeling of home, of times long past, times that are over. For all kinds of reasons, humans may pine for this feeling of home. I've talked a lot on the show about the positive influence of my grandparents, particularly the set that I lived with from about 6 or 7 to 12. But one of the things that was hard was that it was very clear to me at that young, very precious, very tender age that it was not my home. I was and very much knew that I was intruding on their home space. Now, technically, my mom lived there too, but was working nights and partying a lot. Essentially not really there. And definitely a situation of her dropping the responsibility of 3 kids on her parents. My grandparents didn't intend for me to feel intrusive to their lives. They didn't intend that I had no sense of home. Their intention, in my opinion, because I don't have them here to ask as an adult, was that they were trying to keep my mom from feeling entitled to their home and never thinking she needed to leave and figure out a home for us. So they maintained a narrative of we were in their home. Very clear to me, it was not my home. Almost to the moment we did get our own home, my mom married my abuser. So when I got what was supposed to be my home, me having my own room after years of sharing a room with 3 other people and having no privacy, instead of it feeling like a safe home that was finally mine, my abuse started. Home is quite the concept to consider in our healing. If you had a tough childhood and all you take away from this episode is that you have a right to cultivate the essence of a safe home, then that makes this episode worth it to me. If you want to go a little further, I have about 8, maybe oddly specific ways to cultivate home internally and externally. Some are practical, some mental and emotional exercises and ideas similar to what I offer in emotional strength training, 30 Days to Peace, because peace is most definitely a part of any of us intentionally creating home and everything that home means. Starting in January, I have a brand new option, and we're doing the peace course differently. I'll be doing some group coaching towards peace. You are welcome. Any of you listening are welcome to come stop by emotionalbadass.com. And if you're interested in this new program, come set up a call with my team to see if you're eligible, to see if you want to do it, to see if you're right for it, and if January is the right time for you. Here is what I have for you for the essence of home in this episode. And if you want me to show you some items, let you into my intimate home world, come join the Patreon, because that's what the Patreon exclusive episode that you can't find anywhere else will be. And I hope it feels homey as you experience that episode with me. So here we go. How do we cultivate this feeling of home on our healing journeys? The first one I have for you is very specific. And just like all things, take what works for you and leave the rest. But here's my suggestion. And boy, do I mean it with every fiber of my being, because man, do I want you to do this. Hang lights, strands of lights, in your home or on your porch. When I teach my boundaries course, I will be teaching it again in 2025. I teach a concept about lighting up for ourselves. This is in recognition that highly sensitive people who lean codependent have been first conditioned by their lives to show up for everybody else and not themselves. And then we tend to have years, decades even, maybe a whole lifetime of self-reinforcing codependency by behaviorally putting ourselves last to be able to keep serving others, which was our original codependent programming. Healing codependency isn't about not doing for others, y'all. It's just about doing for ourselves. You being able to do for you with an essence of vigor, a permission, the way you do for others. Healing codependency as a highly sensitive person is about learning how to not overdo for others while you underdo for you. Putting up a strand of lights is a way to light up for yourself. It's a way to put your foot down for yourself and use your beautiful stubbornness to say, I am going to do for me. And I am going to do small, easy things that make me and my world light up for me, that bring a smile to my face, a comfort, that send a message of, hey, I see you and you matter. It's so easy in healing to get consumed with the biggies, right? Gosh, I need to heal child sexual abuse, or gosh, I have abandonment wounds. There's so much healing in these little bitty things, particularly when we know it and we hold this intention. Every home I've had since my late 20s has had multiple strands of coppered wire fairy lights. They're very cheap. They're abundant. They're in every length you could imagine. Every office I've ever had to host clients in has also had fairy lights. If I ask you why light up for yourself, maybe a better question is, why wouldn't you? I think the answer of why any of us wouldn't would simply be old dysfunction, old programming, old low self-worth messages. Second tip I've got for you is to be cognizant, conscious, and intentional about how you walk through your front doorway. It's so easy in this fast-paced, hectic, overdoing modern life that we just sort of ride on a wave of stress from our day right back into our homes. Whether we work outside of the home or inside of the home, all of us have this moment where work is done and we're shifting. That is a moment where we can all take such good care of ourselves if we simply use intention to walk through that front door of our home and take a few deep breaths to breathe in home and to breathe out the day. To quite literally let go of the stressing, the stressors, the to-do list, the go buzz, and breathe. And I mean big, deep, full breaths. Breaths with your whole self, your whole lungs, all of your lungs. The moment you get home and walk through your front door, whatever that is, if that's your bedroom door because you're renting a room in somebody else's home, whatever is the threshold to your space, let that be an important moment. Let that be a beautiful inhale and a beautiful exhale. This will teach your body that it is right for you to get off of that constant invitation to ride that wave of stress. See, it's not just you and your childhood struggles or family dynamics or unresolved trauma. It's not your HSPness. It's not your ADD. We get to teach our bodies what home feels like. And to do this, we must shift because this modern life constantly says, stress. Are you stressing? If you're not stressing now, you should stress. Oh, you're not stressed? How about fear? Should you be in fear about anything? Have you feared today? You better fear. We must use our beautiful stubbornness to put our foot down and say, no. I don't care how popular it is to be stressed all the time and run around like a chicken with your head cut off. Give that energy the middle finger. Say no to it. Reclaim your sense of home. Next one. I want you to decorate, believe it or not. It sounds pretty unimportant, like a surface level thing, kind of like makeup on your face, maybe. To decorate, I just want you to know that you have a right to do so. And you have a right to do that your way. When I say decorate, this is not about having a lot of money to spend. This is not about you owning or buying some big fancy home. This idea works if you're living in a tent, if you're having a season in a shelter, if you're sharing a room, if you're living in a semi-truck, whatever, wherever, however spacious or teeny tiny, if all you have is a bed somewhere, or a place for a sleeping bag. This is about allowing yourself to put your mark on your home and claim that essence of home. And that's what makes it yours. That's what offers you some psychological home, even if you do not have those four walls. Your home is your environment wherever you are, wherever you go. I want you to think about your favorite animal, whatever came to mind when I said that. Now, if I took almost any highly sensitive person to any zoo, and I know zoos have problems, I have mixed feelings about zoos, but for this example, if we all went to the zoo and we looked at the enclosures, most highly sensitive people would have tons of ideas instantly about how to make the enclosures of their favorite animal, and let's be real, all the animals, to make that enclosure more comfortable, more honoring of that animal's natural habitat. They would want that animal to have more space in that habitat. You would want that animal's enclosure as enriching as is possible for that animal, right? Take that in. Now, do you give the same consideration to your space? Now, if you've not given just as much consideration and care to your personal home environment, let me be the one to say it clearly. If you want less anxiety, less depressive feeling, more gusto for life, you must be willing to enrich your habitat so that you enrich how you function and how you feel. How would you expect any animal to handle a space that isn't suited for it? You would very much understand if you went to the zoo and you saw an unfortunate animal in some tiny cage spinning in circles. You would know that that animal was losing its mind because its enclosure was not right for it. Its environment was wrong. It needs more than that. It's okay that you need more than that. People need more. If you grew up in lack, this may be a very big missing piece. Most people do not walk into a therapist's office ever and go, my goodness, I really need to spend some time considering why I don't decorate my home or why I don't tend to my own environment. If you've seen video of me on Patreon or YouTube when I'm recording in my office, I'm not in my office right now. I'm in our recording studio in my husband's office. My office is purple. You know why? It makes me happy. All I wanted as a little girl was to be able to paint my walls. I wanted walls to be able to paint them. And even when I had my own room, it wasn't allowed. It was very white, very stark. Though this might sound oddly specific, sometimes narcissistic parents care nothing about how their kids do things in their own space. Other parents are very controlling, and mine were. I wasn't allowed to express myself. I wasn't allowed to have a poster on the wall. I wasn't allowed to rip something out of a magazine and stick it on the wall. So today, my office is purple. It's my third purple office, y'all. It makes me happy. Do we really need more reason than that? If something easy and simple, like a bucket of paint, would bring you joy, do you need more reason than that? You are worth any effort here. You are. And look, I say this with the essence of I grew up very poor. Anything I spent on, I tended to hear a lot of shame. Oh, you didn't need that paint. If I would have bought my own paint and painted my own room and been allowed, I likely would have heard, oh, you could have saved that money or you could have spent that on something important. Instead, you spent it on something frivolous. Sometimes healing is about so much more than tending to what was traumatic. Of all the things I could possibly list, not being able to hang things on the wall does not make the cut. Not having a purple room does not make the cut. But it's not just about healing the wrongs and the pain and the traumas and the atrocities. It's about having fun. It's about joy, cultivating it, allowing it. You're worth it. Any effort in this department, you are worth it. And if that's hard for you to believe, I offer my belief, and I'll believe it for you until you get to the place where you can believe it yourself. The next example I have for you, all right, take a little journey on me for this one. So Carl Jung named archetypes for us in psychology. And I've done a few episodes on archetypes. I have quite a few episodes on archetypes in the Patreon too, if you're interested in that. But archetypes are simply reoccurring human themes throughout the human condition. And we all know and may embody these different archetypes, season to season, moment to moment, career to career. Teacher is an archetype, for example. So is doctor, so is healer, so is child, so is debutante, so is criminal, so is God and goddess. These are the human themes that run through the human experience. And somehow they run through our collective unconscious. We all know what these are. And they all conjure an idea. I could say teacher to anyone in the world in their language, the word for teacher, and we would all universally know what that is. There's no end to the amount of archetypes we could create. A new archetype is influencer. In some ways, there have been influencers all throughout history. Now we have a different, more concrete form of influencer for the good and the bad that comes with that. My theory, and it's mine alone, I've never heard anybody else say it, is that the concept of archetypes isn't just in our psychology. It's not just in our collective personalities and temperaments within the human condition. We have archetypes of concepts too, y'all. Here are a few of my examples. Holidays. If I say, oh, what are you doing for the holidays? Doesn't matter who I'm talking to, from what culture, any ethnicity across the globe, all of us have this concept of holidays, right? I said zoo earlier. I think we all know what a zoo is. Small town is an archetype. Big city is an archetype. If I say, ooh, I want to get you a hot beverage, that's more than just you're thirsty, right? That's I'm offering you a cup of comfort. So we have this archetype idea of a hot beverage. Maybe Sunday dinners is another one, graduations. Home. Home is a biggie of an archetype. Within the home, the kitchen is another, maybe deeper inside of the home. Sacred archetype. It is the hearth. It is considered the heart of the home. Now, even if you aren't the cooking type, here's my suggestion. Because of this archetype of what home is, what it feels like, and that might come to us not just from our child experience, from books, from movies, from TV, from going over to our friends' homes and seeing what home feels like for them. So even if you aren't the cooking type, my suggestion here, because of this archetype of home and hearth and kitchen and warmth, my suggestion here to create the feeling of home is to cook something. And to feel like you are letting the home's heart beat when you heat up that kitchen. Maybe that's simply eggs for you. Maybe it's a cake. Maybe it's a meatloaf. Maybe it's burgers. Here's a little favorite micro memory of mine that I want to share with you. Years ago, I've been in Colorado about 9 years. I think this was about 7 years ago. I was standing in a very long line during this holiday season. And I was holding a whole chicken and just waiting in line. I mean, one of those crazy lines. It's like halfway through the store. When a young man behind me sort of exhaled and he exclaimed like he had been searching high and low, like he had traveled mountains and miles to find the answer to the question he so passionately asked me. And he just looked at me so earnestly with eyes wide and said, "How? How do you even cook that whole chicken?" And I lit up with delight. I said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me. It is so easy." I told him, "Please don't be intimidated by a whole chicken. I'll tell you how to do it. Please, please try it. Because once you figure it out, it's so easy and it's so comforting. Just rub it down with olive oil. You don't have to measure it. And then put some spices on it. You really can't go wrong. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder. That's enough to start with, to start learning seasonings. Just put it all over the chicken. You kind of can't put too much. And then just place it breast side up on a pan. Make sure the pan has deep enough sides because some juice is going to come out. Just cook it at 350 for about an hour and a half. You want the legs, when you shake them, to get a little bit wiggly. That's how you know it's done. You can also look inside of the cavity, and what once is bloody will turn brown. You can test it with a little spoon. You can even get a meat thermometer and Google the temperature. You stick that thermometer between the leg and the breast. I gave him a whole little tutorial while I stood there in line. And I said, and if you mess it up, it's okay. You'll learn and you'll be able to do it next time and then you'll get it. Please give it a try. Please don't be intimidated by that big old chicken. Y'all, he was so pumped up. I could tell that he took my energy and we left that store with him really going to try making a chicken. Now, this is the kind of memory that somebody could hear me say and look at me like, I cannot believe you are recording this and sharing this, like some kind of memory like this matters. I don't know who this boy is. I'll never see him again. But this is a memory that stays with me because I'm big-hearted. I feel through my interactions with people. And what I felt through with him was that I got to share a very special little piece of what feels like home to me with him. It struck me all in that conversation that it was likely his very first time living away from parents. My perception picked up that I think he was out of state for the first time, far away from them. His first on his own home. And maybe, just maybe, I got to help him create and cultivate that little feeling of home. Maybe at a time when he felt a little unsure, brand new, a little anxious. So, cook something. Cook something. And maybe when the stars align, like they did for me and that young man in that grocery line, the second little side tip here is share something that makes you feel at home with someone else. What a beautiful moment between people. Next tip, put up some pictures or make some collages, create some art. Anything that makes you happy, that makes you light up, and put it around your space. This is self-investment, y'all. You get to craft your space. You get to put your mark on it. Make a memory in that space. Maybe take a picture of yourself walking through the front door, maybe cooking, maybe just a smile with a friend or a loved one. Frame it. Push it into a corkboard with a pin if you don't want to frame it. But allow yourself to surround yourself with the objects and the things that light you up, that give you that essence of home. Next tip, organize and declutter, y'all. Oh, in this American culture, I want to say declutter times 10. Our American culture is so obsessed with consumerism that there is an often unspoken major problem in Western society, particularly Americans, with hoarding stuff. Simply hoarding stuff is what happens with a massive self-love deficiency or deep dysfunction. That dysfunction tries to replace love with stuff. Because, stuff doesn't hold vulnerable risk the way loving does. If we love someone, likely they're going to disappoint us. If someone loves me, likely I'm going to disappoint them at a point. Stuff is just stuff without that risk. It takes courage to love. It takes courage to self-love. And sometimes when that's missed, hoarding becomes the replacement for the love that's lacking. More and more and more is not what we need. More and more and more is not what fills up any void that we feel inside of ourselves. Consider the powerful self-care of less. Less for your highly sensitive eyes to see. Less for your highly sensitive mind to process. Less for your hands and legs to dust, wash, move, etc. Less time and upkeep for less stuff. If you were raised in chaos emotionally and or in a hoarder-like environment, consider where you lean after that exposure and experience. What pole do you lean into? Sometimes people who grew up in this repeat chaos and clutter, and some go very far to the other side, going so minimalistic. Like, I would love to be a minimalist. I am not. If you have that minimalist vibe in you, more power to you. It impresses me, but sometimes it goes too far. Minimalism to the environment can be sort of like anorexia with food. Anorexia is an eating disorder with a lot of restriction of food, a lot of rigidity, a lot of rules, a lot of disallowing, often a bordering to full-fledged self-punishing vibe of you're not allowed that food because you're bad, because you're not small enough. There's a healthy way to be a minimalist, just like there's a healthy way to be trim. And there are unhealthy ways to justify a self-punishing and limiting dysfunctional restriction of either food or environment and space. Saving can trip over this dynamic too. Sometimes I meet somebody that's so proud of how much they save, and then I realize, oh my goodness, they're living in a way that is almost self-punishing. They're not allowing any joy. They're never spending something for the sake of joy. Yikes, it's too much, it's too far. Be real with yourself and consider what would be a calibration or a growth edge for you here. And know that if you have family members that are struggling with hoarding, there is likely little to nothing you could say or do to change that. Because in the way I'm describing it, it has nothing to do with that actual stuff. And when you try to clear out their stuff, they feel as if you're taking love away from them. It's a very hard situation. Grow into the correct, proper sanity, energy-saving boundaries that you need to have there if you need such boundaries. Next tip, when home, practice a gratitude for it, no matter if it is ideal or if it holds many struggles. Inhale the essence of home with great intention. Home is the place that you can let go, turn off, and not be on. We all need places where we can turn off. Enjoy the inhales and exhales of your space, even if that's just a bed with headphones. You have a right to create a sense of home wherever you go, wherever you are. Allow wonder to wash over you for the home that you have. I'm going to tell you about one of my ex's grandmothers. She's passed now. I'm going to say her first name because it's such a beautiful first name. Her name was Rosie, but her middle initial was V. And so since being a little girl, she was Rosa V, old Italian grandmother. She's passed on now. And she would say every time I saw her with a big, glowing, vibrant, beaming smile, "Hello! If I had known this morning that I would have had the good fortune of seeing you today, I wouldn't have believed it. I'm so happy that I get to spend this time with you." And she would envelop me in a big, strong hug. She gave this energy to anyone and everyone who knew her. She was like a human gift of the feeling of home wherever she went. She had that mother's energy that I think anyone with a harsh mother has always wanted. Their inner child has wanted that always. And she gave that. She gave it out so generously. I think about her a lot and this way of how she took just a mundane moment. I saw this woman multiple times a week for many years. It wasn't like I saw her 3 times a year. Every single time I saw her, instead of it being a mundane moment, it was a moment that I got wrapped in her home. I felt more home in her arms at that time in my life than almost anywhere else. Today, 20 years after, I can sit and feel that sense of home again. I bring her and her essence into my home. And I hope that when I hug someone else, that I am that for them. The more that you allow yourself to cultivate, be in, allow, practice, sink into this sense of home, the more you sink into this sense of home. Sometimes the space gives it to us. Sometimes a beautiful woman does. All right, here's my, I think, last tip. I invite you to sit with your eyes closed, hand on your heart, and a hand on your belly, and repeat as you breathe in and out, inside of your head or aloud. I am home when I am present inside of myself. I am home when I am present inside of myself. This is about tending to the essence of home that is inside of all of us. Home is a part of you. It is a part of me. It is part of that collective, even if your home was a horror show as a child. You get to let go of that experience, that potential programming, and you get to program home for yourself with light, love, and great intention. The essence of home, though we will tend to our environment, is actually inside of us. It's held within your heart, and it gets to come with you wherever you go. Home is inside of me. Home is a part of me. It is even about more than this very life I have lived since the day I was born. Home has been passed down to me in my DNA from every single ancestor in my line, from every single version of home that they held in their hearts. When I sit and breathe and remember, I am home. I wish you the deepest, fullest feelings of warmth, safety, security, healing, wholeness, and home this holiday season and for all of your life. Thank you for being a part of what gives me a sense of home by allowing me to share my essence of home, my essence of me, my learning, my growth, my hard-earned wisdom with you. Thank you for being out there willing to grow, listen, move through life with more nuance, peace, ease, and light. There's a reason we say that home is where the heart is. And I want every single highly sensitive person to always remember this. Your home is where your heart is. Light and love and home to all of you. I am an emotional badass. You are an emotional badass. And together, we are where Moxie meets mindful. Light and love. And I'll see you for a brand new episode next time. And I'll see y'all on the Patreon. Light and love. Bye-bye. My essence of home, my essence of me, my learning, my growth, my hard-earned wisdom with you. Thank you for being out there willing to grow, listen, move through life with more nuance, peace, ease, and light. There's a reason we say that home is where the heart is. And I want every single highly sensitive person to always remember this. Your home is where your heart is. Light and love and home to all of you. I am an emotional badass. You are an emotional badass. And together, we are where Moxie meets mindful. Light and love. And I'll see you for a brand new episode next time. And I'll see y'all on the Patreon. Light and love. Bye-bye.